Kia ora, vanakkam, aiboan, salam alaikum, g'day. Headmaster, staff, the board, old boys and old girls, and students of Wanganui Collegiate. This is a very strange, like Duncan said, a very bizarre, surreal moment for me. And I'm so glad that there are a few gentlemen from the now extinct House of Porritt who can appreciate what a weird moment this really is. Since winning the Booker Prize, I've traveled to 12 cities in as many weeks. I just came off a plane from Hong Kong, and I've delivered roughly 738 speeches and interviews, which in itself is strange because as writers, we spend our hours in dark rooms, talking to ourselves, talking to imaginary characters, to ghosts. On a good day, if we're in a good mood, we might talk to our wives and our kids, but mostly we're locked up talking to ourselves. And then suddenly you get some success and you're expected to speak and perform. And I remember when my first book, the manuscript of Chinaman, The Legend of Pradeep Matthew, which incidentally features Wanganui Collegiate. I won't tell you where, but it makes a small cameo appearance there. But when I gave my first manuscript to this famous playwright, Sri Lankan playwright, Karunatilaka Chikera, she came back to me and she was quite delighted. She said, "I'm so glad, because you write so much better than you speak." And of course it's true. But speak I've had to do, and along the journey you get asked sometimes the same recurring questions. And one of the recurring questions is, why did you become a writer? What made you become a writer? And it's one of those impossible questions, a question without answer. It's like, yeah, what made you become an interviewer? You tell me. But if I was being honest with myself and with you, the primary reason why I became a writer is because I wanted a career where I didn't have to wear a goddamn tie. That's the honest. This is the only tie I own. I bought this suit for the Booker Prize because yeah, I thought I'd look a bit Reservoir Dogs. I'm going to drop a lot of 90s references into these speeches. I understand only a handful of people who get it, but yeah, Reservoir Dogs, Mr. Brown, if you haven't seen Tarantino's first movie. But the thing is, I wanted a career where I didn't have to tuck my shirt in or pull my socks up or tie a noose around my neck every morning. And after years of my dad telling me to get a haircut and get a real job, I think my greatest victory was be able to earn a living sitting in my pajamas, making up stories while painting my nails. And I know now everyone works in their pajamas since COVID, but you know, us writers, we did it first before it was cool. But the other reason this is strange is I remember sitting at wherever you at these seats here at the Prince Edward Auditorium, named after the only member of the royal family not to cheat on their spouse or hang out with Jeffrey Epstein. But if they'd all gone to Wanganui Collegiate, the crown would be a much less scandalous show, I'm sure. But I do remember sitting there listening to old boys receiving honours ties. There was Sam Strawn, the late great All Black, Chris Amon, the F1 race car driver, Matthew Vai, the scrum half who also kicked goals for Manu Samoa, and Hamish McDougall, who at the time won Sale of the Century and Mastermind, and then went on to win the ultimate game show of becoming Lord Mayor of Wanganui. And I really enjoyed these honours tie ceremonies, I have to admit. Not because particularly I enjoyed listening to the impressive feats of these impressive men, but because it beat sitting in maths or physics or geography or some class that I wanted to avoid. And I would hope when I was sitting there, the old boy would drone on for longer so I get the whole afternoon off. And now we have a nice serviceable Friday afternoon, so I think I will try my best to offer that service to you so you can enjoy a few hours off class. But these old boys, they talk about the mischief they got up to in class, tricks they play on their housemaster, the exploits on the sporting field, as they say, the match that was won, the sinking sun, the goal from the place kicked true. Alas, I don't have that many stories like that. I mean, I've spoken about this before. My time at Wanganeen Collegiate wasn't a particularly happy one. I remember a lot of mishaps, a lot of humiliations. Some of them were self-inflicted, I must admit. Some of them not. But yes, you do remember me getting pummeled on the rugby field. I remember I got the ball and everyone was saying, pass it to the, and I'm going to use some terms that were used in 1992, which may not be used in polite society now, but yeah, pass it to the curry. And I was like, thinking, I didn't know it was a racial slur. I was like, okay, maybe, I know Kiwis like nicknaming each other, so, but I should have suspected because it was the opposition who was saying it, not my team members. Of course, I get it, and they jump on me and stomp on me, and I'm like, hey, why are you stomping on my head? You're on my team. So that was my rugby career. My cricket career, I have to take blame for this because I kind of trash talked a bit. I said, okay, forget rugby, Sri Lankans, we know how to play cricket, and I'll show you guys. And you know, I used to bowl left arm Chinaman, left arm leg spin. And I think that my talk had reached so many ears that by the time I came to bowl, it seemed like the whole school had gathered there. And of course, I had practiced the dark arts of left arm spin in tropical cities like Colombo or Kandy or Galle. I didn't anticipate in summer how cold. I'm making my excuses because I came in, I bowled the first ball, and I don't exaggerate, bounced 7 times. And there was a roar of laughter. It seemed like the whole universe was cackling, and then I said, sorry, my hands are cold. And the second one, I think it bounced 5 times. And then I managed to get one to bounce twice, and the batsman picked it up and hit it, and it got caught at mid-off. And I should have shut up. But I said, you know, I told the umpire, he's out, hit the ball twice, and he's out caught. And I sort of also said, take that, in much stronger language to the batsman, who then said, you know, you're the worst bowler I've ever seen. And, you know, so this is my introduction to collegiate. And I also remember this stage, I sang on this stage, you're right, the Police so lonely. The Police weren't a 90s band, a bit earlier than that, but they sang in particular high register, and this one, I sang it very high and off-key, and I'm sure there's a tape out there in the AV department. I will pay good money to have it destroyed. Do not put it on YouTube if you find it, just come to me. But also, I mean, there were some shenanigans. I remember the final day of school, the end of 7th form, almost getting expelled, having the bright idea, me and 2 others had the bright idea of having some beers on the golf course on our final day. And I'm not going to name them because, you know, I don't dob in my mates.
Bullshit.
Yeah, I don't think we got past the first can before we were busted and taken to the headmaster, who confiscated our beers and asked us to come in the next morning. Mr. Trevor McKinley, I believe you're here, he remembers this well, and called us in the next morning, our last day of school. We're going to get expelled on the last, called us in at 7 a.m. and let us stew there. Of course I dobbed in my mates, I'm no hero. And so the 3 of us sitting there, and then came out 2 hours later with a smile and twinkle in the eye and said, okay gentlemen, you're free to go. So I believe, Mr. McKinley, you owe us a 6-pack of DB, right? Yellow can, I don't know if they still make it, but yeah, but okay, I'm going to go a bit dark here, but look, don't worry, I'll take you home. I'll deliver the happy ending. This is what a good story does. It goes to dark places and it delivers some sort of redemption. But there's another reason I enjoyed honest high ceremonies. It's because in this packed auditorium, people had to sit next to you. And that's something, you know, I really valued because for the most part, no one would sit next to me in class, at least for my first year before I made friends. I stopped going to the lunchroom because it get humiliating to not be seated by yourself. Remember chapel being stressful. If you were on the end of the pew, no one would sit next to you. And you know, I do remember the humiliations and the shame. The shame, the feeling that you were weird, that you were a freak, worthless and perhaps not worth knowing. And I'd like to dedicate my speech today, not to the rugby players or the blue shirts or the cool kids. You guys get enough kudos. I'd like to dedicate it to the losers, to the rejects, to the no-mates, the kids who get picked on, who get bullied, who no one talks to or sits next to. And I'd just like to deliver a very simple message from the future, which I wish I'd gotten in 1992. And the message is simply this: it's going to be okay. It's going to be more than okay. You just need to be patient and hang in there, and all things will pass and you will be awesome. And I know that sounds trite and patronizing, but that is the real truth of my experience. Because I do remember sitting in this crowd fantasizing about moments like this. I mean, I never thought it would happen. But of course, I had no idea I wanted to be a writer. I had this particularly male adolescent fantasy of being a rock star, something that I haven't discarded still, even though I can't sing a note or play a note. And I thought, I'd form a band and play Madison Square and win Grammys and get invited back, and that I'd turn up in a limo with a bottle of Jack Daniels and some groupies and stumble on stage and proceed to name and shame everyone who ever bullied me, and then smash the stage. I can see Mr. Wayne Brown shuffling uncomfortably in the seat. Don't worry, Headmaster. I was 15 then. I'm almost 50 now. I'm gonna behave and keep it classy. And I've only had a cup of tea, and the closest I had to a groupie was Duncan Eastwood. But look, I know 1992 was a long time ago. To the world today, we're told, is more culturally sensitive, a more inclusive place, welcoming of diversity, at least on the surface. So perhaps, maybe no one gets bullied at collegiate anymore. Maybe everyone is kind and no one gets left behind. Maybe I'm telling tales from a bygone era that have no relevance to today. I mean, I hope that is true, though I'd be very surprised if it were. The reason I'm, of course, also not going to name and shame is because as a person of color, which is what we're called now, we were called slightly unsubtler things back in the day, but now if you point your finger at someone and say, hey, in 1989 you said this racist thing to me, that person gets cancelled and loses everything they have. Where was that superpower in 1992? I really could have used that. Because back then, yeah, you said, hey, you're racist, and they go, yeah, I'm not racist, mate, I just hate blah, blah, blah. You've heard that bad joke, it's not particularly funny, haha. But it's strange because also, this year we have an old boys and old girls weekend, and the class of Porritt 1992 is perhaps the most overrepresented year group in this year's old boys and old girls weekend. And it's strange because we were the day boys, we were right at the end of the drive, and we were the rejects, and I think a lot of us never thought we'd come back here after we were done with it, but somehow we all made it back. And it was at the end of the driveway, it felt like another planet, and I can't speak for all day groups of Porritt and Marist, but ours was mostly, let's be honest guys, mostly nerds and geeks, and hardly any of us played sport to any great level. But over the last 30 years, we've all kept in touch. Some of us, I've been to uni with some of the guys and traveled with them, but most of us haven't seen each other since 1992. But thanks to the wonders of Mark Zuckerberg and his Meta empire, we're able to form a chat group over the pandemic, and we reconnected. And we explored the possibility of reunion, of coming back to Wanganui, this town we thought we'd never return to. And for some of us, it was like the plot of the great Stephen King novel, It, going back to the childhood town to confront this monster that scarred us. And it was very enlightening and curious for me to watch these conversations on this chat group evolve. Because a few didn't really want to come back. They'd been through years of therapy to overcome the trauma of collegiate, and these people, and it was strange because these were not people I thought had a particularly rough time. Because I did notice, and this is something I've noticed over the last 30 years, the ones who were particularly viciously bullied, I'm not going to go into examples, but I didn't have the worst time. People made fun of my name and my accent, my stupid haircut, fair enough, but there were some who were routinely ridiculed and treated quite poorly, but a lot of them have done extraordinary things, have built businesses, built lives, traveled the world, created new ideas, and most importantly, helped others. And I also notice, and this is what I do when I'm supposed to be writing these books, I procrastinate and stalk people that I used to go to school with. And look at the bullies and look at how unattractive they look. I should be above all this stuff, but we all do it. And I noticed something with I'm not going to call them bullies. It's the alphas, the cool dudes. Many of them I noticed found it harder in university, in the real world. Some of them ended up losing their own way, because the truth is, usually if you're bullying, it means you are suffering from it yourself, either from a parent or a sibling or some external force. And that cruelty seems to catch up with you. It's a documented fact that most ISIS volunteers were bullied and beaten as children, that abusers suffer abuse themselves. But on the other hand, it's also this cliche that the kid who's going to cure cancer, who's going to solve the climate crisis, who'll deliver peace in the Middle East, this kid is currently being bullied on some playground somewhere and will go away and do this extraordinary thing. So I guess the clear message here is, let's keep bullying. Yeah, we've got to cure cancer. And that tight-head prop playing for the first 15 isn't going to do it. I shouldn't be unkind to tight-head prop. There's no reason for me to cure cancer either. But yeah, let's pick on the brown kid or the fat kid. I'm joking, by the way. I'm being stupid, okay? Because I suspect the Wanganui Chronicle may be lurking somewhere. And I don't want to see the headline, Booger guy says bullying is cool. Tomorrow. But look, these are not my only memories of collegiate. I also remember the kindnesses and the friendships. I remember the teachers who looked out for me and could see I was troubled and who also, on many occasions, inspired me. My English teachers, Laura Heath and Jeff Tate, who would read my writings and give me stories to read and would encourage me to write more and to write better. Mrs. Gibbons, who I had the pleasure to meet today, who would let me hide out in the library, even when I should have been somewhere else. Mr. Tweed, who let me crash the computer system. I wasn't very popular that week, but that's a completely different story. But I also found friendships among the disaffected. And the first real friend I found is right here, Mr. Duncan Eastwood. We bonded over arguing over music, talking movies, sharing books, but it was really something to have someone just see you as a person and not a freak or weirdo or the guy who bowled and the ball bounced 7 times. And I also made other friends who I'm so proud to have with me here today, sitting in the back row. Now, I'd like to say that after high school, there are no hierarchies, but that's patently untrue. The world is filled with them. And working in the corporate world, as I had later done, I found myself on the bottom of the food chain, somewhere in the middle, cursing the buffoons who were running the show, and occasion on the top. And what I did notice is that the best leaders, the ones I encountered who were really effective, were those who had compassion and empathy and kindness, who listen more than they speak, and who go out of their way to help the people working with them. Because in the real world, the bullies get fired because they seldom produce results. And when you finish collegiate and you are released into the wild, you'll find many things that you thought about yourself and those around you were illusions. Out there, no one cares. Out there, you will have to survive an overheating planet where everyone's glued to their screens, where vibrant democracies vote in fascists and despots. Perhaps that's only in my part of the world. But you'll also, I don't mean to alarm you, may be staring down the barrel of economic collapse, possibly World War III. And I'm sorry, I don't have any solutions for you for that. You're on your own there. I'm just going to get out of the way. But this is nothing new for young people, because we thought we lived in revolutionary times. When we were at school, apartheid ended in South Africa after 50 years. The Soviet Union collapsed, the Iron Curtain came down, the Cold War ended, and I'm happy to report Russia and America have been very peaceful since then. Yeah. But also, the Great Revolution, we admitted girls to Godwin. That happened on our watch. Yes, you're welcome. But also there was a cultural revolution going on at the time. I mean, this is what me and Duncan and our friends, we bonded over. The early 90s gave us gangster rap, which, I mean, I know hip hop is ubiquitous now, but back then to hear someone swear on a tape and say the N-word was like, wow. And now it's commonplace. But also we had grunge. I don't know if anyone remembers alternative rock. We thought rock had been reinvented, and for a while it had been. Independent cinema, electronica. But for me, and I discovered this in the Wanganui library where I hid out in the collegiate one, was that South Asian writers were writing in their own voices, the likes of Salman Rushdie, Arundhati Roy, Vikram Seth. This is not something that I saw in the 80s growing up. Rohithan Mistry, I mean, from Sri Lanka, Michael Ondaatje, Ramesh Gunasekara, Shyam Selvadurai. But what it told me is that I could tell that our stories were interesting, but we could tell it our own way. And that's why I had no hesitation with my first book, telling it through the point of view of a drunken uncle obsessed with cricket, or telling it through the point of view of a dead war photographer. And the fact is this, the future has always been uncertain and always been terrifying, but it's always been about new ideas. And that will not change even after the robots start writing novels for us. Because out there, the most important thing, what I believe is the most important thing, and I think what the world believes it, and what you should as well, is that it's not climbing to the top of whatever imaginary ladder you created. It's not about accumulating status or money or flaunting it on Instagram. It's about finding your true place and finding that thing that makes you happy, that fuels your soul, that allows you to be part of this wonderful ride and continue to traverse. And for me, the victory of the last few decades, it wasn't winning prizes, it wasn't writing novels that sell. These are just instances of blind luck. Most writers write in anonymity and publish, and they hope someone will like it, but they know that there's a lot of books out there, and theirs may drown and may never be uncovered. But you take the fortune when it smiles on you. But for me, the real victory was this: to be able to sit in my salon, in my office, not wearing a tie, and to be able to make a living from words and ideas, and making up stories that you had no idea if they'd ever be read, but to be able to do that every day. And that happened long before prizes and books were published. But the thing you do every day, that's the thing that defines you, whether you like, whether you want it to or not. The reason I never became this so-called rock star is I didn't play guitar every day. I didn't practice piano every day. I didn't play when I had a gig, but I was compelled to write every day. And this is something, when I see gifted musicians, gifted athletes, I know that it's because it doesn't happen out of coincidence. It's not talent. It's because these people, they do it every day. And I think you need to choose what you do with yourself every day. And I think that's the main choice. And this is what you will find at collegiate. And even if you don't know it when you're at collegiate, that's okay as well. But it will eventually find you. And it may not seem like very much, but for me, it's everything. This is number 748. But let me end with sharing a couple of things that I've uncovered over the last 15 years of sitting in my room and typing. The answer to these questions: where do ideas come from? And what do you do when you're stuck? The first, the idea of us being a creator, it's called the creative industries. I work in advertising, on film sets, writing novels. And it's the idea of creator, and we all, in this world, everyone's a creator, a co-creator. But this word is a misnomer. It implies that you pull out your rib and you produce a movie or a symphony or something. And it puts the onus that you are creative coming from you. And this is what leads people to start drinking at 9 in the morning and doing dumb things that they can't create. But for me, what I found to be truthful is the ideas are always floating around. And you have to you receive the ideas. And the ideas are all, and once you know that, the pressure's not on you. You just have to, and I'm going to use I'm sure enough you have had to put a coat hanger on a television and turn it around to get reception. But we had things called antennas, and that's how we listened to the radio. But tuning your antennas to the frequency of the idea, that's really what, that's really how you receive them. And knowing that there's an infinite number of ideas, and when you can't write, when you can't create, it's not because it's not there, it's because you're not a vessel, you're not ready enough to receive it. So you need to read more, do more, practice more, or whatever. But the third thing is what to do when you're stuck, this so-called thing called writer's block, which is a misnomer, it's a myth. David Mamet, the great screenwriter and playwright, he gives a masterclass where he talks about this box that his family were Russian Jews who fled from Europe, and his grandmother had this it seemed like magical music box. And he couldn't open it because he couldn't find the key. So he took it to Brooklyn to this antique dealer and said, "Can you break this open?" And the antique dealer said, no, if you open that, it'll lose value, it's priceless. Go bring the key. And he said, "I don't have a key." And he said, "The key's there. Where was this box?" He said, "It was my grandmother's cupboard." He said, "The key's there." And David Mamet was quite annoyed, saying, "Who's this guy telling me? I've looked all over the house, the key's not there." And then he went back to prove the guy wrong, and opened the cupboard, and sure enough, sellotaped under there was the key. And for him, this was the metaphor for writing. The fact is, he thought there was no key and therefore gave up on it. But that guy knew the key was always there. And the key to whatever problem you have in your story or in your life, it is always there. Sometimes I go to bed thinking I wasted 200 pages, this novel is not going to work. But I go to bed with that idea, the key will be there tomorrow morning. And sometimes you need to be patient. It may take months, it may take years. But the key to whatever problem in your life is also there. But if you have faith that it can be uncovered and the patience to uncover it, you will uncover it. So where does all this leave us? I mean, whatever your religious beliefs, I know it's a Christian school, I was brought up a Buddhist, and I've been fascinated by Hinduism and read the Quran. But let's discard all those beliefs and just assume, as the kids used to say, YOLO, we only live once. We are one brief flicker between two long sleeps. What do we do with our time here? And so if I may, I'd like to end with a couple of readings, since this is, let's keep it a bit literary. This is a bit from my book where Mahdi Almeida, the protagonist, looks back on his life and tries to understand what it was about. As the body banged against the side of the building, it left blotches of crimson and obsidian, of scarlet and ebony, and you felt 1,000 screams gushing past you. And you felt something that wasn't quite comforting, but wasn't all that unpleasant. Something that was invisible and true, the semblance of a microscopic point in this gargantuan waste of space. You saw your lover's face and how different it was from his father's, and you saw him on a plane landing somewhere sunny, and you pictured him purifying poisoned wells, and you daydreamed of him smiling. You imagined him lending his life to a pointless cause just like you had, and it made you happy. We must all find causes to live for, or why bother with breath? Because on reflection, once you have seen your own face and recognized the color of your eyes, tasted the air and smelt the soil, drunk from the purest fountains and the dirtiest wells, that is the kindest thing you can say about life. It's not nothing. And that's true. We are all here, and we're all here through a confluence of coincidence and circumstance and blind luck. And it may not be clear why we are here, but it will reveal itself to you, if you are patient and you listen hard enough. I'm going to end with one more reading. This is from, not something I wrote, it was written by Jeff Mangum of the band Neutral Milk Hotel. Yeah, those guys. It's in the airplane over the sea. And the song is badly recorded, badly sung, but it's always been, the words have always spoken to me about what a gift life is. What a beautiful face I have found in this place that is circling around the sun. What a beautiful dream that could flash flash on a screen in a blink of an eye and be gone from me. Soft and sweet, soft and sweet. Let me hold it close and keep it here with me. For one day we will die, and our ashes will fly from the aeroplane over the sea. But for now we are young, let us lay in the sun and count every beautiful thing we can see. Love to be, love to be. In the arms of all I'm keeping here with me. What a curious life they have found here tonight. There is music, there is sounds from the street. There are lights in the clouds and ghosts all around. Hear their voices roaring, ringing through me. Soft and sweet, soft and sweet. How the notes all bend and reach high above the trees. What a beautiful face I have found in this place that is circling around the sun. And when we meet on a cloud, I'll be laughing out loud. I'll be laughing with everyone I see. Can't believe how strange it is to be anything at all. Can't believe how strange it is to be anything at all. Find the thing that you want to do every day, the thing that will bring you joy. Surround yourself with people who will nourish you on that journey, and find the key that unlocks the world for you. Don't let anyone tell you it doesn't exist, and don't let anyone take it from you. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for this tremendous honor. Bless you all. Thank you.